I'm Karen. I'm 33 years old. We're a family of 3. My husband William, who's the same age, and our 3-year-old daughter, Evelyn. My husband's family runs a tutoring center. Both my father-in-law and mother-in-law used to be teachers, and my husband also has a teaching license. They are affluent and well-educated, and I sometimes find it hard to believe that I'm part of such a family. At first, my parents and friends were worried about me, but there was nothing to worry about. They're really good people. Even though I was the athlete type in contrast, my in-laws welcomed me with open arms. My mother-in-law was thrilled to have a daughter. Although I was nervous at first, my strength lies in my cheerful and lively character. I decided to be myself, and we built a relationship from there. I hold a certified arborist certification, and I do health assessments on trees, pruning, planting, and relocation, as well as consulting. I studied hard to get my certification, and even after getting out into the field, it's a physically demanding job. Not only do you need brains, but it's a job that really requires physical work. I always take care of my health, and I'm quite strong for a woman. Right now, my husband is a tutor in the family-run tutoring center, but he used to be an elementary school teacher. The first time I met him was when I visited the school he worked at for a meeting about the health and care of the trees. After giving birth, I took parental leave and just returned to work last year. Since our daughter is still young, I prioritize my family thanks to the understanding of my workplace. But there are times when I just can't make it in time to pick her up. When that happens, my mother-in-law helps out, and my husband will pick up our daughter if he can. I appreciated the support from my work, and I was living a fulfilling life. However, there was one person in my married life who troubled me. It was my sister-in-law. She's the wife of my husband's brother. My husband has 2 brothers, and my husband is the second oldest. The youngest son is still single. The eldest son, Richard's wife, is Sarah, and she's the source of my problems. She's basically a housewife, but she also helps with the accounting and administrative work of the tutoring center. They have a 5-year-old boy, and they seem to be planning to have him take an entrance exam for a private elementary school. From the first time I met Sarah at the in-laws' house, I knew she was a different kind of person. She was petite, always well-dressed, and her hair was neat, and I thought she was wonderful when I saw her smiling. But she had 2 faces. It was when we were in the kitchen helping my mother-in-law, and she left for a moment. "Hey, can't you do something about your appearance?" "Huh?" Sarah, who had been smiling, had a voice that was so different. I thought she was a different person. "You're always wearing clothes that look worn out and dirty. Don't you realize you're the only one who sticks out here?" I'm embarrassed. Well, I find these clothes easy to move in, and I have to chase after my daughter all the time because she's still little." "I have a child too, you know." Sarah sighed dramatically and seemed to have more to say, but she returned to her usual demeanor when she saw my mother-in-law returning. "Oh, what were you 2 talking about?" "Oh, we were just talking about child-rearing." It's amazing how she can change her voice in an instant. I wonder if she has a sensor that automatically switches when my mother-in-law comes. My mother-in-law looked at me as if to say, "Is that so?" "Yes, we were talking about our kids." Upon hearing this, Sarah seemed satisfied. I'm not afraid of skinny Sarah, but it's not like I can't shrug off this level of sarcasm, and I didn't want to worry my mother-in-law unnecessarily. I've got a few friends dealing with issues with their mother-in-laws and sister-in-laws. It's not unusual, after all, to hear about stress due to the mother-in-law factor. Given this context, my mother-in-law is like a saint, always rooting and supporting my career. I thought I could deflect my sister-in-law's snide comments easily. However, every time we crossed paths, she would continue to demean me. Once, while on a work errand, I bumped into my sister-in-law, Sarah, who was chatting with a couple of her mom friends. We locked eyes, and not wanting to be rude, I greeted her. "Hello, Sarah." "Oh, hi there." I was in a rush and moved on after the brief exchange, but later that night she called my home. "What on earth do you think you're doing?" She snapped at me, her tone extremely aggressive from the get-go. "Huh? What do you mean?" "Earlier today, don't you dare approach me in public dressed like that. What's with your work outfit? I can't believe you would walk around outside looking like that. Did you see us? It's only proper to look presentable, even if you have nothing special going on. We're all mom friends who are preparing our kids for private school entrance exams. We live in a different world from you. Oh, I was so embarrassed. She launched into a tirade without pause. Well, I was working, so I was indeed in my work clothes, I replied. I don't care about that. Just don't approach me anymore when we meet outside, okay? It's embarrassing. But isn't that even stranger? We're family after all. That's what I've been trying to tell you, haven't I? You're just not fitting for the family. Just so you know, I've never considered you a sister-in-law. She hung up abruptly, leaving me stunned. She really went out of her way to call and vent her feelings. Although she consistently complained about me at family gatherings, what's worse is that she only reveals her true colors when we're alone. She prides herself in being a fashionable, high-class woman from a wealthy family. It's fine if she enjoys that. What I don't understand is her constant need to attack me, simply because I don't align with her preferences. Yes, she always dresses elegantly in sports accessories, but why does she need so many? I wonder if her quiet husband, my brother-in-law, lets her shop as much as she wants. He probably doesn't even know about this side of her. It's just who she is. I've kept silent about this to my brother-in-law and mother-in-law, but I did let my husband in on it, as it was becoming a source of stress. Huh? She doesn't seem like that. He initially shrugged it off. A few days later, my mother-in-law called me. There was a family dinner coming up over the weekend, and she wanted to let me know the time and place. We each live about 30 minutes away by car. Normally, she doesn't interfere with her son's household. However, she insists on gathering the entire family for my father-in-law's birthday, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. This time, it was because my father-in-law's birthday was approaching. This time, we managed to reserve a private room at his favorite steakhouse. It's our first time going there as a family, but it's really good. I hope you're looking forward to it. Oh, I am, thank you. While I was genuinely excited, I dreaded seeing my sister-in-law again. You don't sound very enthusiastic. Are you busy at work? Oh, I'm okay. I'm perfectly fine. Uh-oh, had my voice betrayed my feelings? I hurriedly reassured her. Karen, if there's anything bothering you at home, please let me know, okay? Our home? We're managing just fine, even when work runs late. You help us out. I really appreciate all you do for us. It's not about your family, though. Huh? I was puzzled, not understanding what she meant. Then the weekend came, and with it, the dinner party. It was my father-in-law's birthday celebration, a chance to express our gratitude for my father-in-law and mother-in-law. I resolved to celebrate wholeheartedly, and not to let my spiteful sister-in-law get to me. I left home early, and when I walked into the private room at the restaurant, I sighed with relief as my father-in-law, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law had not yet arrived. I'd come early as to not keep my father-in-law waiting on his birthday celebration, and also because the less time I spent with Sarah, the better. However, my brother-in-law and Sarah showed up right after I did. Hello. Hi, Karen. Richard, it's nice to see you. After we exchanged greetings, my husband and brother-in-law started talking. Sarah, on the other hand, swiftly came over to me and looked me up and down before sighing. What are you wearing? For such an upscale restaurant, you could at least dress a bit nicer. How many times do I have to tell you? The demeaning comments started as usual, only in a lower tone. Is this really the time or place for that? I clenched my teeth and forced a smile. I chose this dress thinking about the occasion. Is it inappropriate? I mean, it's not from a high-end brand or anything. It's quite surprising you could show up in such a cheap outfit. You, despite being a woman, have such broad shoulders that the dress doesn't suit you. And your accessories? Just a wedding ring? You never wear nail polish either, and your hands look rough. I can't wear nail polish for my job. Isn't it inconvenient to do household chores with such long nails, Sarah? My job involves working with wood and soil in addition to household chores, so my hands tend to get rough. Not being able to wear nail polish was not something I was concerned about. Compared to the average woman, my masculinity is a testament to my hard work as a gardener. These hands, these shoulders, they are my pride, Yet she belittles them, and I couldn't help but retort, "What did you say? Are you suggesting that I don't do housework?" Perhaps my rebuttal did sit well with her. Sarah's voice grew louder. "I really can't stand you. I've been trying to help you out of kindness, but you never listen, and now you're resisting? It's unbearable to be lumped in with a rough woman like you." I messed up. My sister-in-law seemed to be losing sight of her surroundings in her anger. "This is my father-in-law's celebration today. Please don't bother me." "Huh? You're the one ruining everything. You're the one who doesn't belong in this family. I told you, I can't dine with someone as shabby as you. Go home." Wait, what? I have to go home? This dinner was organized by my mother-in-law, and the person ruining it is clearly her. I'll listen to your complaints about me later. I have things to say to you as well, but for now... I had decided to stand my ground, but not now. "Don't you dare talk back to me. Didn't you hear me? I said go home. In fact, leave this family." Just as my husband started to approach in response to Sarah's loud voice, the private room's door opened. "The one leaving should be you." My mother-in-law entered the room, quietly yet decisively. My father-in-law and their youngest son, John, also entered, and my mother-in-law gently closed the door. "What?" Sarah, who was fired up, must have remembered where she was and what was happening. She was lost for words, her mouth opening and closing in surprise. What was that about?" "Everyone, please sit down." Despite her soft voice, there was a compelling force in my mother-in-law that everyone obeyed. "It seems we need to have a chat before we can enjoy the birthday celebration. I'm sorry for this interruption." Seeing my father-in-law nod in agreement, my mother-in-law turned back to Sarah. "Sarah, what did you say to Karen?" Whoa, even my kind-hearted mother-in-law could dish out a strong sarcasm when needed. Sarah, flustered, answered, "Oh, just saying I'm looking forward to today's meal." "Did I hear wrong? I thought I heard get out." "Huh? No, that was a small argument. It was just a joke." She was still somewhat agitated, but I was impressed at how Sarah was trying to regain her usual cheerful demeanor. "An argument? What caused it? It seemed you were the one doing all the talking. Have you been bullying Karen like this whole time?" She probably heard everything from the door, staring straight at Sarah. I didn't bully her. I was just offering advice on manners and dress as a senior member of this household." "That didn't seem like advice, and everyone should be free to wear what they want as long as it's respectful. She wasn't dressed oddly." But wearing non-branded clothes in such a high-end restaurant, her makeup and accessories were minimal. I thought she shouldn't embarrass you and the rest." "Enough!" My mother-in-law's outburst made me jump, along with Sarah. The three brothers and my father-in-law knew that my mother-in-law was scary when angry. They seemed unfazed by the situation, showing picture books and speaking to the children to distract them. "No." "Sarah, you're the one who should be embarrassed. I had noticed that something was off about you two, even during gatherings at our house. I initially thought you were having friendly chats." "Huh? Friendly? Yes, friendly chats, right? Sarah gave me a desperate look that was completely different from before, but I avoided meeting her gaze. "For the record, Karen never snitched on you. You wasted her kindness, hoping you would eventually change. Your attitude only escalated." Well, that's..." Stammering, Sarah was met with my mother-in-law's even harsher tone. "And you always wear beautiful clothes and have so many purses." Yes, that's true. I always make sure to look presentable wherever I go." "Where does the money for that come from?" "Huh?" Just as she thought she could regain the upper hand, an unexpected question made Sarah freeze. That is, of course, from my..." "We're paying you for helping with the tuition and accounting at the tutoring school. Even if my son said you could use that money freely, it doesn't seem like it would be enough. Your clothes and purses are all designer brands." Well, because..." "Are you exploiting the fact that you're in charge of the household finances to satisfy your own desires?" What do you mean?" She stammered. I could see why she's confused. I was curious about the source of their money myself. I had always thought my brother-in-law was just a generous guy. Maybe he just left all the household finances to her. It's concerning to me that he didn't keep a closer eye on their spending. Maybe he trusted her because she acted as a good wife so well. When I think about it like that, I almost feel sorry for him. So, you've been spending money like water, and now you want to send your child to a private school? She asked. You've been setting aside funds for their education, right? What? You're not expecting us to pay, are you? No, not at all, but he's your adorable grandchild after all. Which is it? So she was planning to rely on my father-in-law and mother-in-law's money all along. Of course we love our grandchildren. We're thinking of supporting them financially if necessary, says my mother-in-law. Really? But only after you leave our home. What? No, there's no need for that. I'll apologize to Karen for telling her to leave. Karen? It's the first time she's referred to me by name. You will forgive me, right? We're sisters after all. Sisters? Only while you're married to my brother-in-law. My mother-in-law looks at me as if to sign that I should continue. Even if it's official, I don't want to become family. I don't think of you as a sister. Caught off guard, Sarah let out a weird noise. And that's not all. You've also been dipping into the money from the tutoring school. Sarah was speechless, her eyes wide in shock. Is that true? I was genuinely surprised by my mother-in-law's words. I had expected Sarah to use the household money freely, but I didn't think she would touch the funds from the tutoring school my in-laws run. You were clever enough to not get caught, so it took us a while to figure it out. Even Bob, who's been in charge of our accounts for years, was manipulated by you. Sarah's face turned pale. You were buying gifts like gift baskets for the suppliers of our teaching materials, expressing gratitude to teachers holding seminars, all this shopping under your charge. The amount on the receipts gradually increased. You made excuses that you were asked to give birthday presents, or that the requests came from me or my son. No, that's not. What are you talking about? You bought things other than gift baskets, labeling them as presents. This has never happened before. But it's our son's wife. Bob trusted you. He was told you took part-time lecturers to lunch, but in reality, you were dining and drinking tea with your mom friends. The suspicious receipts gradually increased, and Bob finally came to us. Even before that, my son had started investigating after noticing something strange. What? You betrayed the trust of all those who wanted to believe in you. It seems that dressing up is more important to you than anything else. It's not me, I didn't. Sarah looked at my brother-in-law as if begging for help, with a voice that's almost a whisper. But he just stared back coldly without saying a word. And if all this is true, I can't blame him. Karen is the opposite. Sure, she's not really into fashion, but she always puts herself second and values her family and her job. You seem to not care to know about her work, but being a certified arborist is an impressive qualification. I bet she studied hard for it. Oh. As Sarah was left speechless and utterly defeated, my mother-in-law suddenly started talking about me. Unconsciously, I felt a warmth welling up in my eyes. I respect her, thinking that if she wanted to continue her work, we should support her. Have you ever seen her working lively, not caring if her clothes get dirty, or her hands are covered in soil? And you make fun of her? I was teary-eyed and silent, and Sarah was unable to make any excuses or act anymore. She just hung her head low. Our tutoring school may not match the major corporations, but we value our teachers and students and have earned their trust. We've grown little by little by addressing each student's individual issues and those of their families. What's important is people and hearts. You are the one that doesn't belong here. You are the one who should leave. My mother-in-law, who had declared it so clearly, was truly awesome. After that, Sarah, who had been pretending to be a perfect, elegant wife, was forced to leave her wealthy family. My brother-in-law attempted to have a discussion, but Sarah, who refused to acknowledge her faults and was very angry, was served with divorce papers. Now that the embezzlement has been revealed, she won't be able to get any compensation, and she has nothing left. My brother-in-law will keep the custody of their son, and with the help of my father-in-law and mother-in-law, he will maintain their normal life. Sarah, who always put herself first, would take her anger out on her son when things didn't go her way. But the young boy nodded firmly at his father and grandparents' words of, It'll be okay. The desire to send him to a private elementary school was Sarah's wish, but he apparently disliked being forced to study. These days, he's freely playing with our daughter. Of course, my husband and I intend to help in any way we can. On a leisurely day spent together at my in-laws' house, my mother-in-law approached me and said, "I'm really sorry for making you uncomfortable for so long. We should have noticed sooner." "No, not at all. I wasn't really bothered at first." "If you ever need anything in the future, don't hesitate to tell us." "Yes." As I said that, I remembered my mother-in-law's words. What's important is people and hearts. Maybe because I was staring at her, my mother-in-law looked at me with a puzzled expression. "Haha, it's nothing. I was just thinking how cool you are." "Well, thank you. But the cool one is you, being able to create such beautiful gardens. Maybe I should ask you to help with ours next time. I want to replant the flower bed." "Oh, absolutely. I would love to do it, even if it's not for work. Just let me know whenever." "You should charge her. Mom can be quite demanding." My husband chimed in with a playful comment, and we all laughed together. Value people, cherish hearts. I'll make sure to remember that. I hope to spend more time laughing with my precious family in the future.
I have a mother who lives alone. Contemplating her circumstances, I approached my husband about the idea of living closer to my mother's house. However, he flatly retorted, "We are not living near your mother's house. We should live with my parents instead." I was shocked. He just disregarded my feelings and tried to impose his will. With a deep sense of frustration, I decided to take matters into my own hands. My name is Isabella. I'm 30 years old. I live with my husband, Mark, and our 2-month-old son, Chris. Mark and I work at the same company. Although we are in different departments, we often work together on projects, and we share a number of acquaintances. We had a grand wedding celebration with our colleagues, and I was determined to make our married life a happy one. Initially, Mark and I lived in his apartment. However, as it was quite cramped, we decided to move. We wanted to have a child eventually, so we agreed to move into a larger apartment and consider buying a house later on. Casually browsing property listings on my smartphone, I started a conversation with Mark. "I don't want to quit my job even after we have a child," I said. Mark responded with a smile. "You love your work, Isabella. You should do what you like." "But it seems that the competition for daycare spots is pretty high. We have to think about that too if I'm planning to return to work." "Well, I guess you're right. We'll figure it out somehow," Mark nonchalantly replied, fiddling with his smartphone. I then decided to bring up an idea that I had been contemplating for a while. "You know, there's something I've been wanting to talk about," I began. "Oh? What is it?" he asked. "I'd like us to live closer to my mother's house, just in case something happens." "Why would we do that?" he inquired. "Well, you know my father passed away a few years ago, so my mother is living alone now. I want to be able to rush over if something happens." "Your mother seems fine. There's no need to worry about that now." "Well, yes, but I think it's better to have someone close by who can support us when we have a child." His response was noticeably reluctant. I tried to persuade him further. "If it's just the two of us raising the child, it could be quite difficult, right? If my mom is nearby, I believe it'll ease your burden," I insisted. "Nah, I can't do that," he countered. "What? Why not?" "Because if we live near her mom, we'll have to see her often. That would be stressful." "I understand your concern, but I promise I'll try my best not to burden you." "When we have a child, you won't be able to work for a while, which means we'll be living on my income alone, right? So why should I have to deal with the extra stress?" "Well," in response to my silence, he coldly stated, "We're not moving anywhere near your mother's house." "But," I protested, "after giving birth, you won't be able to contribute to the rent or the living expenses, right? Yet, you're the only one thinking about what's convenient for you. Don't you think that's a bit selfish?" "Hold on, what kind of logic is that? Sure, I wouldn't be able to work for a few months after giving birth, but does he really need to be so negative about it? Don't you think we should try harder to cooperate as a married couple?" My husband's actions didn't make any sense, and I felt that if I continued to speak up, things would not progress in a positive way. We're newlyweds. I don't want to quarrel at this point. Fine. I got it. Leaving these words behind, I left the room. I couldn't bear this atmosphere any longer. Eventually, I gave up on living near my mother's home and decided to settle in an area close to both of our workplaces. After moving, work and our marital relationship were going fairly well, and we were leading relatively peaceful days. One day, I found out I was pregnant. My work was going well, so I felt a little guilty, but my child was my top priority. Taking handovers into account, I worked up until the last possible moment before my family leave. Since I had more free time after starting my family leave, I started visiting my mother more often. My husband, Mark, was coming home past midnight almost every day due to overtime work. If things continued this way, I would undoubtedly have to single-handedly raise our child after giving birth. As it would be my first child, everything was new to me and I felt a lot of anxiety. One day, I was visiting my mother at home and I blurted out my real feelings to her. Mom, I'm really looking forward to the baby coming, but I'm also very anxious. What's wrong, Isabella? That's not like you. You have Mark, don't you? Mark seems busy with work, and when I asked him to take care of our baby together after giving birth, he yelled at me, saying, "How can I, a man, do that?" As I explained, my voice trembled and my mother looked worried. I decided to express my feelings clearly to my mother. "Hey, Mom, can I come back here for a while after the baby is born?" "Well," my mother tilted her head and thought for a moment. "It's going to be tough at first, and it would be a bit of a hassle for me to commute to your place every day. I would be grateful if you could come over to our house, Isabella." "Really? Can I stay?" "Of course. I'd be happy to spend time with my grandchild, and nothing would make me happier than being able to support my daughter." "Thank you, Mom. I'll talk to Mark about it when I get home today." By revealing my anxiety to my mother, my heart felt significantly lighter. Right. I should talk to Mark properly. As a couple, we need to consider our child's future carefully. That night, I talked to Mark about the situation with my mother. However, his reaction was not what I was hoping for. "What? Go back to your parents' house? You must be kidding." "I'm serious." I leaned forward, trying to convince my husband. "I'm nervous because it's my first time, and I need to rest for a month after giving birth. I don't think I'll be able to do the housework. That's why I want to go back to my mother's house for a while." "That's ridiculous. Who's going to cook for me? Who's going to do the laundry? Can't you manage on your own for just a little while, Mark?" "Huh? I'm out there working and now you want me to do housework too? You're a monster," Mark huffed. But in my confusion, Mark sighed heavily. I get it. I should help out, right?" "Huh? Help out?" "That's what I'm saying. I'll assist with childcare. I'll handle the chores and childcare for the first month after birth, okay? That way there's no need for you to go back to your mother's home, right?" "Well, I guess so." "Okay, then it's settled. I'll help out. This discussion's over." I understand." I wasn't entirely convinced, but the best thing for our family would be if we could work together to raise our child. I felt some apprehension, but I decided to trust Mark's words. I gave up the idea of going back to my mother's home and called my mom to explain the situation. "I see. I was looking forward to your visit, so it's a bit disappointing. But it's a good thing, right? Mark said he'll help, hasn't he?" "That's true, but I thought it would be more reassuring with you, Mom, given your experience with childcare." "Oh, there are plenty of couples who take on everything from the start without returning home. You should take advantage of Mark's support and try your best together." "Okay, I understand." As I was about to hang up, my mother stopped me. "Oh, and what's up?" "Always tell me when something happens. I'm always on your side, Isabella." "Thanks, Mom. I'll try my best with Mark." I needed to work hard to keep from worrying my mom, and so I resolved to take on childcare with my husband. A few days later, our first son was born, and the tumultuous life of parenting began. As promised, Mark did help out, albeit in a limited way. His involvement amounted to doing some light shopping after work and taking out the garbage, tasks I had managed. However, Mark was stubbornly hands-off when it came to childcare. He had never changed a diaper or even made a bottle. I was tired from the unfamiliarity of childcare and had no energy to complain. This kind of parenting life continued for about 2 months. One evening, after putting our son to bed and returning to the living room, Mark arrived home. "I'm home." "Welcome home. I'll start making dinner, so just wait a bit." "What? At least keep something ready to heat up. You're not good at managing things, are you?" "Well, what can I do? Our little Chris just fell asleep." It's been 2 months and you still can't get him to sleep properly? Never mind. I'll go take a bath first. Have dinner ready by the time I'm out." With that, Mark left the room. What was that about? Who does he think he is? Why does he demand perfection from me when he doesn't contribute to childcare at all? My irritation built, and I wanted to throw something, but I couldn't wake up Chris, who had just fallen asleep. I held back my anger. 30 minutes later, without saying a word, Mark started eating his dinner right after he got out of the bath. As I stared at him, shocked by his behavior. "Oh yeah, I have something to talk about." Mark stopped me. "Talk? What all of a sudden?" "I got a call from Dad today. Seems Mom fell and can't move her leg well." "What? Your mother?" According to my husband Mark, his mother had gone shopping with a neighborhood friend, had a dramatic fall, and was immediately taken to the hospital in an ambulance. Even after several hours, her leg isn't moving, and the doctor diagnosed that she might need assistance going forward. I see. That's hard. Your father must be having a rough time." To be honest, I was more worried about my father-in-law than my mother-in-law. From the beginning, my mother-in-law did not like me. She was even cold to me at our marriage introduction. When I announced my pregnancy, "We don't need a girl, do we?" she was the type to say nonchalantly. The one who always scolded my mother-in-law and stood by me was my father-in-law. "Let me know if you need anything. I'll be there for you if you need me." Each time he met me, my father-in-law encouraged me like this. If my stay-at-home mother-in-law couldn't move, my father-in-law would be really struggling. While recalling the happenings at my in-laws' home, Mark dropped an unbelievable proposition. "Here's the thing. I had a great idea. Let's live together with my parents at my home." What? "Don't you think it's a good plan? I'm worried about Mom, and you, Isabella, are not working now. If we live together, it will reduce Dad's burden, and he would be happy." "Wait just a minute. You're joking, right? The reason I'm not working is to take care of our son, Chris. I can't suddenly decide to live with your parents." "But it's been 2 months already. You must have some free time now. Right now, Mom is the priority. You should understand that." Is he serious? When I suggested living near my mom, he outright refused, but now it suits him just perfectly. Mark is not the type to visit his home frequently, so it was convenient so far, but living with my mother-in-law is out of the question. Knowing Mark, if we lived together, he would certainly side with his mother and be harsh on me. Unable to bear it any longer, I vented my frustrations. "Don't mess with me. You flat out denied when I wanted to live near my mother, but now it's okay when it's about you?" What? What's that about? Your mother is fine, isn't she?" "But, unlike your house, my mom lives alone. What if something happens? You're not considering my anxieties, are you?" "Shut up. Listen here. You married me and became my wife. You should stop arguing and listen to what I say." At that moment, any residual affection I had for my husband vanished instantly. He doesn't consider my feelings, let alone seeing me as an equal. I cannot continue a marital relationship with him. Seeing my silence, Mark probably thought I had agreed and dropped this line. "Anyway, it's decided that we're going to live together. We're moving as soon as possible, so get the stuff packed by tomorrow." "I understand." "You should have just obediently listened to me from the start." With that, Mark left for the bedroom without even clearing the dinner dishes. The next day, once Mark left for work, I packed the minimum necessary stuff and left the house. Of course, just for me and my son. When I returned to my mother's house with my son, my mother was initially shocked, but accepted our situation once I explained. As he returned home from work, my husband, Mark, called after realizing that my son and I were not there. "Hey, where are you right now?" At my mother's place, Mark. What? What the heck are you doing without my permission? Get back here right now. Well, our son's already asleep, and it's late. So no. Besides, I'm not planning on returning. What the? Mark yelled at me over the phone, something that was rare for me to oppose him. Listen here, if you don't come back right now, we're getting a divorce. You got it? A divorce? That's right. Didn't I tell you? I'm moving to my parents' house. If we divorce now, you'll be jobless. That's going to be a problem for you, huh? I couldn't see his face, but I could tell from his tone of voice that he was smirking. To him, I responded coldly. I don't see that as a problem. What? I have no objections to the divorce. So please, send the divorce papers to the court. What are you saying? You're the one who's going to be in trouble if we get a divorce. Maybe he thought that if he provoked me with a blaming tone, I would listen to him. I was thoroughly disgusted by his naive thinking. If you want to move to your parents' house, go ahead. I won't. What? You think you could just do that? I don't need your permission. After all, we're getting a divorce. Why should I listen to what a stranger has to say? Who do you think you are talking like that? My patience with Mark, who still looked down on me, had reached its limit. Enough is enough. Who the hell do you think you are? How much more do you have to belittle someone before you're satisfied? I didn't get married to become your slave. Stop treating women like they're stupid. What's going on? Isabella, calm down. Calm down? I can't keep quiet after being belittled this much. If we can't support each other as a couple, then I don't need a man like you. Divorce? I'd be more than happy to. Live by yourself at your parents' house. Never involve me again. With that, I hung up the phone. Mark kept calling persistently, but I ignored all of them. Then he started to send me disturbingly affectionate texts. Isabella, I can't live without you. You don't have to live with my parents. Please come back. I understand. Let's live with your mother, just the three of us. 1 month later, his love messages abruptly stopped, and he unexpectedly agreed to the divorce. It was all thanks to my father-in-law. When Mark complained about the situation to him, he ended up getting scolded instead. Listen, Mark, you can't just impose the idea of living together on someone. But Dad! Oh, shut up. You need to learn more about the world, and that's why Isabella left you. It's pitiful. My stern father-in-law, after scolding my husband, instructed him to proceed with the divorce. My husband, unable to defy his father, grudgingly agreed to the divorce. I filed the divorce papers that were mailed to us, and we were officially no longer a couple. Afterwards, I received an apology from my father-in-law. Isabella, I'm truly sorry. My foolish son must have caused you trouble, hasn't he? It's all right, sir. It's all water under the bridge now. Live your life your way, Isabella, and thank you for everything. I can't express enough the gratitude to my father-in-law, who has shown nothing but respect until the end. The woman I am today is thanks to him. As for me, I'm in the thick of it, juggling work and motherhood as a single mom. With help from my mother, I strive daily to become a better mother for my son. Being married and being a couple doesn't guarantee happiness. I don't need a husband to be happy. Just having my beloved son and mother by my side is more than enough for me.